All right, what is going on, Banter fam? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and as always, we will be diving deep into the NFT gaming world and trends and where we think the space is going. As I have the pleasure to be joined by Web3 gaming legend Brycent himself. Brycent, thank you for joining me, and really happy to chop it up with you on the entire sector with you today. How are you?
I'm good, bro. I appreciate you having me on. Me and you vibed out. We got dinner I think it was a month ago down here in the great state of Florida in the sunny Miami. So it's been a good vibe. We're pushing Web3 gaming forward together alongside some other creators in the space. And it's cool to be on the Crypto Banter show and chopping it up. I think the last time I was chatting with Rand. So it's good to see that the In the Game show is doing amazing things and they have the best host in the game. So I'm ready to rock out.
Yeah, and I'm loving having the gaming show here on the channel and bringing that insight on that side of the industry. As I feel like GameFi and Web3 gaming is just going to advance so much further in the future, and we're just really at the forefront of that movement. So I wanted to just kind of let people know, anyone who might not know your background in the space, can you kind of fill people in as far as how you got into gaming
Oh,
as
man.
well as the Web3 side of things?
Yeah, this is I don't know how many times I've done this in general, but it's always funny to me now looking back at it because there's other layers that add on top every time you announce who you are and everything. So, I mean, I found Web3 gaming about a year and a half ago. At the time, I was a software engineer, found a game called Axie Infinity, dove incredibly deep, realized no one was streaming Web3 gaming content on Twitch. And as Axie popped off, I also popped off and kind of like shared in that upside. From there, launched a Web3 gaming organization called Loot Squad. We raised about $5 million as a seed round. So half of my day is CEO, the other half is content creator. I have since then stopped playing Axie Infinity and really focused heavily on Web3 gaming as a whole and helping build the space out in a more sustainable way. So now I'm just Twitch streaming, making content on every game under the sun that I feel is fun and enjoyable. And on top of that, building some really cool technology called Loot Bolt. So it's been a really cool vibe and a good run. And I'm excited to see what the next couple of years of Web3 gaming looks like and beyond. And I appreciate you dropping all my socials too.
Yeah, and I think that you're adding. I think that
I think I
Yeah,
lost
of
you for a
course, and
second.
I think that you're doing a really good thing for. Yeah, I think I'm having some connection issues, but it's a good like having you in the space. I think is huge because I always talk about at the same time. There's not enough streamers that can actually come into fun games right now and play them and actually garner their audience. Because right now, like Axie Infinity, as you mentioned, and the gameplay mechanics, a lot of the games, Peg Axie, Axie Infinity, Krabata, Cyball, a lot of the two token games that were more focused on earnings rather than gameplay at the end of the day, those games weren't sustainable for a Twitch community. It just wasn't the type of mechanic that a gameplay loop and community feel that streamers, and that's the biggest part of the space that we also need with the Dr. Disrespects coming in the space, Nick Merckx, Tim the Tapman. We need people and personalities like that to start getting into the sector. So I love your background on the streaming side of things, and really what you're doing on that aspect. Where do you think, for game streams, do you think that this is something that really needs to happen for the mainstream adoption? Because I definitely feel strongly about that, and you're doing a great job pushing that forward. What role do you see in taking part in the adoption in streaming these games?
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same page. I think the Axies, the Krabatas, all of those games, I think they had their moment under the sun, and they definitely provided us with a lot of use case examples to what is good for the space, kind of what should be upgraded, what should be changed, and what can we evolutionize. And nothing wrong with the perspective, but I think when you look at some of the biggest issues that are a result or a byproduct of those games, it was this time last year, as you said before we started, Johnny, where we saw a gaming bull run really take place. And a lot of people jumped into these tokens at very high prices. And when the tokens drop, a lot of people are now down 90% on token investments or NFT investments in certain games. And their first experience as a retail investor gamer in Web3 was, these tokens and these games that people consider rug pulls. They're not, I don't think they're incredible rug pulls. I just think that ultimately their models weren't sustainable. And that bad taste in someone's mouth it makes them less likely to jump into another Web3 based game that has an in-game asset or NFT. And now I think where we are is a level setting of most content creators understanding that there should be some sort of live streaming element available for a game in a fun format if we really want to bring in Web2 gamers. And that Web2 gaming audience is what's going to allow for increased sustainability for these in-game tokens. So I mean, my numbers and viewerships have gone down tremendously since Web3 gaming's decline, whether it's token prices or whatever. But the beauty in it is I love creating. So the idea that Twitch streaming is right now yielding less viewership doesn't really mean much, because ultimately the viewership we're all trying to bring into the space is Web2 based viewers. We already have enough Web3 audience and enough Web3 market share, but how do we break that mold and really bring Web2 based participants in a way that's transparent, open, and honest? And that's why I focus heavily on, are the games fun? Can I stream them? Can I make content? Because if I can make it and other people see it and they like it, there's a higher chance that they're willing to come back and check it out. I mean, one of my biggest TikTok videos was a big time NFT drop scene where I got airdropped an NFT, and it did amazing on TikTok. And there were tons of gamers that were like, "Oh my God, this is really cool." And it's like, it doesn't take a ton. It's just consistency, and that consistency compounding over time. So, I mean, that's why we have really cool shows like what you're doing within the Game on Crypto Banter, and Twitch streams from gamers who just really take pride in playing games. And I think long term it will pay off, but we are in that dry desert period where there's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, everything you alluded to as far as the games go, what happened is the setup of the nature of Web3 gaming became investors who were just into games at one point. They kind of just got into these games as a means to make money off of games, which they, traditionally speaking, over time, 0.1% of the population maybe can make a living off of gaming, or even within the gaming community, because it's hard to garner a Twitch audience and be as good as an esports athlete to be able to earn off these games. So it definitely started with the investor focus. And I completely agree that we need to shift it over to the Web2 relatability side of things. And they think that NFTs are scams. I think we need to terms like in-game collectibles. People understand what that is: battle pass, progression-based rewards, and stuff like that. So what, in your opinion, whenever we see articles like this, Bloomberg, and this, I know that you had to have seen the $1 billion crypto gaming startup Promise Riches. Yeah, it was interesting, right? I mean, there's key pillars and points, pros and cons, and I think it kind of, it's very biased against the industry. But when you read stuff like this and the kind of the stiff arm away from Web3 gaming at the moment, what do you think that we'll eventually move towards when you see the flaws of some of these projects with the 2-token economics? And what do you think the future mechanic is for play to earn? Do you think it's NFT drops like big time? Do you think it's token emissions in some sort? How do you see the sustainability going over time? Because we're seeing big publicity against the industry.
Yeah, and like, before jumping into it, to your point, there's a guy that I met in my building, traditional, TradFi guy, works in, big TradFi. I think it was I can't remember which firm actually, but really big firm, hedge fund. And we chatted, and he was asking me, we're at lunch. He's like, "Yeah, what do you do?" And I said, I'm a Web3 gamer. I was the biggest, Axie Infinity creator. Now I'm one of the most well-known across Web3 gaming. And the first thing he said was, "Oh, I remember reading about that game in the Bloomberg, the one that lost 600 million and people were losing money and left and right." And I was like, wow, everyone's first experience right now is a very true and valid article about a company that really botched their large, sizable advantage in Web3 gaming over every other company in the industry. And it's unfortunate that this is what people see as their first entry point. And that's not to say that their team won't keep shipping, because I'm sure they can eventually launch a product that is valuable, and maybe we see some return of prices. I don't think we'll ever reach those highs again, but it is a clear indicator that everyone in this, that from Web 2, their first look at what we're seeing is this game really did incredibly poor at really providing value to their users. And that's summed up by Bloomberg. So to your point, I think what we need to see from a lot of these play to earn games is, when you go past gameplay and you want to add in these tokenomics models, one, scrap the idea of a utility token. I get why you guys added it. The idea was, okay, if we do a utility token, we don't have to give people, governance or equity in the company. But a lot of things can be resolved And the one method that I've been like preaching to games when they reach out to me is the marketplace rewards model. And I don't know if many people have thought about this implementation, but it's one that I've been really high up on. And that is the idea of allow the marketplace transaction volume, a portion of that volume, to fund the play to earn pool in a stable coin or ETH. If you have $30 million in marketplace transaction for a month, okay, say we're taking 10% of that, or whatever amount would be for 3 million of that. So let's say 10% of all marketplace transaction volume, goes to funding a play to earn pool. Then not only are people tied to spending in the market, but the play to earn isn't tethered to some arbitrary token that you have to create burn mechanisms for. It's tied to whether or not people are playing your game, enjoying the ecosystem, and spending money for things that they enjoy in a game. It creates a more sustainable economy because the play to earn rewards are not fixed. They are tied to whether or not marketplace transactions are happening. And I think that model, as well as some others, could potentially create a more sustainable economy around some of these games. But I think that a lot of these games are looking for easy ways out, in these current standpoints. And ultimately, if you keep doing that, it just compounds more problems. I mean, think about how many burn mechanisms you need to make SLP a balanced 1-to-1 currency from a burn to mint ratio, or Lord forbid vigorous. That thing is so far down in the depths of hell. I don't think God himself could pull it out. But think about how much you would actually need to bring these games back from where they're currently sitting.
Yeah, it's actually crazy, that the space was set up this way without those mechanics. And like we said, we understand from some sort of like a liquidity mindset why they went with the utility tokens and wanting not to give that governance, so to speak. But it's so traditional in my head to think on Web3 or Web2 native games like Warzone, Fortnite, Valorant, CSGO, you just buy skins off the marketplace. That's mainly these games' traditional revenue models. And NFTs are the exact same thing as microtransactions at the end of the day. If you turn that to a gamer, skins, camos, emotes, different like attacks or assassinations in certain games, whatever it is, different moves and character elements. That's exactly what an NFT is. It just kind of baffles me that they didn't just set up a marketplace and take fees from it like OpenSea. That's the traditional gaming model anyway. And then they just take a small fee, as you said, that funds the revenue model for the game. If you're going to pay out players in some fashion, at least have it come from a revenue standpoint. So yeah, exactly. I love that approach. And I think that that's a much easier and I would say quicker path to shortening the adoption curve. And I want to ask you about a couple of games specifically coming from the streamer background. What do you think about the impact that Midnight Society from Dr. Disrespect could bring? What do you think about Midnight Society coming from Dr. Disrespect, especially in the streaming side of things? Where do you think that potentially could take Web3 gaming if it's executed well?
Man, I think that all the eyes are on Dr. Disrespect. And I know there's a lot of people that talk about the other games in the space, but to be honest, if he gets it right, he could bring in anywhere from 500K to 2 to 3 million new gamers and overnight at launch. That's how big the project that they're working on could potentially be. And the beauty in it is a lot of these players are going to get involved with NFTs for the first time and not even realize it. We're just going to keep calling them skins for them. And it's going to be through these custodial wallets that are being built with Stardust and their ecosystem on top of Polygon. But I think Midnight Society is either going to be one of the best innovations for the space and the first real use case example of a top content creator coming into the space and creating a game that is playable. And I know, Johnny, you have a strong background in Warzone. So I know you're very much keen on looking to see what, from an FPS perspective, is being created. And I want to get your thoughts. I know you're the host of the show, but I got to ask you, based on where you see this game going, how strong do you think the impact could be for Midnight Society in the space if they are able to get it right?
Yeah. So I think it could be extreme both ways, right? I think if a big influencer or streamer to the likes of Dr. Disrespect with this FPS experience, he has worked on also previous Call of Duty maps. I think people forget that too. He's not just a personality. Activision and Sledgehammer Games, I believe, was the specific studio that had him working on maps that actually were esports level maps inside of those Call of Duty games. So he definitely understands game mechanics and first person shooters and actually how to attract a player to stay in that game loop and have fun on the elements of the environment, so to speak. So I believe he can nail it, but I think the execution of this could either speed up the adoption or it could really slow it down. Because obviously, if it fails in any sort of fashion, we're going to see those mainstream publicity points trying to call out and nitpick everything that went wrong with it. But when you look at the model, it's free to play, it's play to earn, there's NFT elements. The first NFT was free. The second one was $50. Like, it's not a cash grab whatsoever. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think he's doing it right so far. I think this could really accelerate the growth and eyes on the space. Imagine when he gets to stream this new game to hundreds and thousands of people live on his YouTube, because you know he will.
100%. It's gonna be huge. Like, that launch will be insane to just see and be a part of, and he's gonna bring in so many high value streamers to like come in and play the game at launch as well.
I agree. Yeah, if you remember, there was that big push, and he was getting all those big influencers like Swag, Z-Laner, a bunch of like big Warzone players specifically that I follow from my time in that scene. There was just everyone was showing their Midnight Society characters. So imagine on Twitch one day when all your favorite streamers, your FPS guys, are playing Midnight Society with Dr. Disrespect. I mean, I think that could be a real game changer for the space.
Huge.
Another one I think we're both very ambitious on is Illuvium. Illuvium, especially their open world gameplay. So I know this is really what me and you would be looking forward to in the space. What are your thoughts on Illuvium and the progressions they've made? Because this gameplay looks very sharp.
I mean, the gameplay looks sick. They had the auto battler out, excuse me, and I enjoyed playing that, but I mean, you know me, I want to see what that open world, that overworld looks like. And this is impeccable. I think that when the game launches, I don't know how far it is out from us seeing anything from that scale. The two things I care most about is, okay, we have good graphics and potentially good gameplay. What does the actual lore of the game look like? Like, what are people going to be able to do? I need to see the amount of side quests that you would get from a Skyrim or an Oblivion, so that people can have hundreds of hours of game time. I think they should probably have an entire separate team whose job is to only focus on expansion ideas for the game and in-game like battle pass ideologies and things you can build out. But I mean, this looks absolutely sick. And if there's a world where players can not only interact with each other from a proximity chat, but being able to do different things in the ecosystem that are side quests that impact the overall landscape of what the real-time strategy game looks like, I mean, this game could be played by, tons and tons of people. You're getting a combination of No Man's Sky and Star Atlas. With Star Atlas not launching for maybe another 10 years, it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to actually beat them to market with something really sick.
Yeah, I'm really ambitious on what Illuvium's doing. And I like that, they did do the land sale recently. And quote unquote, land is required to play the game is what the term is. But there is a free land plot. So people, it's free to play at the end of the day, which I love. And they're doing all the things right. The play to earn mechanics are clearly revenue funded. Illuvium's treasury is massive in size. They have runway for years. And there was a recent article that Kieran was saying that they have a plan up to 2032 for this game. So wow. I'm really hoping that includes the stuff that you're mentioning, the side quests, some lore, some side storylines. And yeah, what is going to be the underlying story behind Illuvium, whenever you're actually in the world? I think that'll be really interesting to find out. And I think it's going to be one of those games that, like Dr. Disrespect's game, for how popularized that Illuvium has become in the space, I think that it has the ability to accelerate or slow us down on the adoption curve.
Totally agree with that. It's they're really charting a new territory for AAA games. And I think that ultimately every game that is looking or aspiring to be AAA that is a Web3 native gaming studio should be looking at Illuvium. And you should also be reaching out to Immutable. Immutable is oftentimes looking to bring in new games into their ecosystem. They just announced a $500 million fund. In a world where there's a bear market, if you're building a game right now, you could get a portion of that and start building there. So I just think that for any of the game devs that are in the chat, or people who maybe you're championing a game that hasn't picked a chain yet, Illuvium might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, definitely. And just real quick before we move on to maybe a couple other games before we close it out, and then I'll ask you a few of your favorites because I'm trying to
Yeah.
cover ones I know we're definitely mutually beneficial on, and then I want to hear your thoughts on things that might be playable now for people too. Right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that we're waiting on. But as far as Immutable X versus Polygon, there's a big battle going on right now. It feels like
Yeah.
I know that you tweeted about this yesterday, and I'm a big advocate that Ryan Wyatt, aka Fwiz, has had a
Man.
huge impact on what they're doing over there. What do you think about what Polygon's doing as well? Because I'm more than bullish on Immutable X
Yeah.
and Polygon, so I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that right now, Fwiz and Polygon are looking like Lewis Hamilton from the previous 8 seasons before he lost to Verstappen. I mean, they're literally wiping the floor with everyone. And I love what Immutable's doing, but if you think about their DApp ecosystem, it's very much in its infancy in comparison to how we've seen people building on Polygon. So I think every chain that is looking to be a major player in gaming and going, battling with Immutable, battling with Polygon in this ecosystem, they definitely have their work cut out for them. I'm very much a proponent that Fwiz knows how to bring in people. He built out the entire gaming arm of YouTube when they became YouTube Gaming and brought on some of the biggest streamers. So he has a clear and sizable advantage as the CEO of Polygon Studios. And, that's not something to take lightly because culture is that one thing that you cannot account for. Like you can account for, okay, someone has ZK rollups and one chain is faster than the other. The other chain can balance against that with technology as well. But certain culturally relevant kind of initiatives and intimate pieces are hard to really counteract. So I think that Polygon has to be the clear-cut favorite to win the on-chain gaming master race right now. But I don't know. We'll see what happens over the long run. I know Immutable just partnered with MasterCard very recently to go for some go-to-market strategy. So I'm not going to count them out the game yet.
No, definitely not. And like I said, I think just like cross-platform, these chains can coexist, in my opinion. At one point, if you had a PlayStation and I had an Xbox, we couldn't play together, right? We
Yeah.
couldn't play our
Yep.
favorite games. Growing up, I couldn't. It was a big barrier between consoles. But now I think that cross-chain gaming is definitely something that is going to be existent. There are going to be people who favor certain chains, and I think
Yeah.
that it's kind of going to become like cross-platform eventually. Not to mention that Polygon and Immutable are both Ethereum-based protocols. So I
Yeah.
think that they can all run and maybe even function together whenever the cross-chain gaming world does come into play. And one thing too, Ryan Wyatt was 100% influential in getting Dr. Disrespect to
Oh yeah.
launch Midnight Society on Polygon too. So something to be
100%.
stated as well. Another game I know we both love is Big Time. And I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about Big Time really quickly because I feel like their NFT earnings model is actually the way to go. Right now, there's not a Big Time token. You get NFT airdrops basically inside the game whenever you beat a mission or you raid a dungeon. So, can you explain what you like about Big Time and what do you think about the economic model so far?
What I like most about Big Time is I can play the game and talk about the game and not have to be centered around tokenomics or economics as a selling point for gamers. Right now it's probably the most robust game that's out. They are shipping updates left and right. They fix the scaling with their servers. And ultimately, whether or not people like the way that they handle their on-chain assets with them not being on-chain until I think they're not really on-chain as of yet, the game plays so smooth and so nice. It's almost like you can't deny the fact that they are putting together some really cool gaming IP and really creating something that can bridge different gaps between Web 2 and Web 3. So that is one of the games that I'm very much bullish on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're doing everything right, and the team over there is top notch. It's one of those things for me too. I like to bet on good teams to deliver
Yeah.
good products, and not just this looks really good. Let's try it out, and then at the end of the day, there's a lot of red flags and delays in projects in Web3 gaming. I think we've all seen that. The
Yeah.
delays pushing the goalposts back a little bit to try to buy some more time to figure out the long term of a project. So I think that Big Time, Illuvium are two games that are really doing that well. Any games, particularly right now, that are playable that we haven't talked about that you're really into at the moment, or that you would recommend people who actually enjoy gameplay?
Yeah.
And the future of the space has to be gameplay first, because these games were a job and not fun at
Yeah.
first. That's basically what it was. So, what are some other games that you're really having a good time on and playing and streaming? Because I know that you stream almost every weeknight, or
Yeah.
how often do you stream?
It's 4 times a week. But to your point, I think Play Blancos is a good one. They're like an OG in the space. Very much same realm as Fall Guys. I think their biggest issue right now is they still have a fair amount to go in terms of how they go around with marketing. But I think that there is a lot of value in what they're doing. I also think Undead Blocks is very much Call of Duty style zombies gameplay is really good. And those are probably my lock right now in terms of 3 really interesting games. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on some upcoming games and things that you truly believe in, because we're in the same space, but oftentimes attacking different things. We see different things, and I miss out on a lot. So I'd love to get the Johnny special right now, games that you think have a really good chance, and one, put them on my own radar.
Yeah, so I would agree on Undead Blocks completely. I think that whenever the team mode comes out, because it's only single player now,
Yeah.
whenever me, you, and a couple others can hop on a stream and actually like play team modes, that's going to be so fun. Like when one of our homies gets hit by a zombie and they're bleeding out and we're having to go
Yeah.
save them, it's always the best. In a zombies, Call of Duty zombies, traditionally, it's a very fun game to play with your friends. Another one I'm really looking forward to. Well, and one thing with Undead Blocks is the tournament model. They're doing a $10,000 MP5 tournament this coming, not this week, but next week. They just ran a $20,000 tournament last week. And these are all sponsor backed. So this one's by Polka Starter Gaming. Grant,
Yeah.
the founder over at Undead Blocks, he's got a really good ideology
It's
on
awesome.
revenue and sponsorship based earnings inside the game, not some, as some would call it, Ponzi-nomics mechanisms. I'm really bullish on Shrapnel, AAA first person shooter building on the Avalanche chain. Team
Yeah.
from HBO Interactive, Halo. They actually worked on Call
So
of Duties.
sick.
It's like legit experience behind the studio. They're coming out with a comic book lore, the operators, as well as the game, which we haven't seen yet. But I feel like that's okay at the moment because what they've built in the past and what they are leading up to and the utility that everything's providing into the protocol, you can build maps. I don't know if you know this element.
I
The
didn't know that.
land, you can build maps, structure them on your own, like Halo 3 Forge, for example. And
That's so sick.
the more that people play on those maps, the more that land plot can earn. It's literally economic, like community and activity based on the land. I think it's brilliant, and it allows creatives who might be a great developer on maps to be able to come in and develop like esports level maps on these land plots and be able to have a stake in the amount that the community uses it. What are your thoughts on Shrapnel?
I mean, that's sick. From the early kind of gameplay I saw, it reminded me of like a very high quality version of PUBG in terms of like graphics. So, I mean, I'm eager to play it. I love FPSs. So, this is a game that's definitely now on my radar. As like I said, I found out about it because of you guys with this thing of ours. So, I'm excited to see what this game is, and then also excited to see what you're building over there. And give me some more details. Give me the inside scoop right now before you leave me.
Yeah, 1 second. I think we're both bullish on this one.
Oh
Epic
my
Game Store,
gosh.
Grit. This looks amazing. What are your thoughts quickly? And we'll talk about that.
Dude, every time I see that, I just think of myself as Jamie Foxx and Django jumping in and like just putting in work. I got to play that game in Malta at the Maltaverse event, and it played smooth, regardless of what people were saying on social media, because I got a lot of backlash from Web2 gamers. But the game is smooth as hell, and I cannot wait until they do a real proper play test into the public, so we can get in there together and start vibing out. But it is a good game. I love Western style games, and you know me, I got that cowboy in me.
I love it. Yes, this game, to me, it looks like PUBG mixed with H1Z1. And
Yeah.
those are two of the most OG battle royales. That's the reason we know battle royales for what they are today, is those two titles. I'm really excited for this as well. And then as far as this thing of ours, yeah, we're really just building a collective between trying to bridge that gap between gamers, game developers, and actual investors in the space. We know there's room for all of them. It's an all-in-one gaming community focused on providing information, games that we're getting into, what we're looking at inside of the markets, as well as access to key individuals in the space with advisor calls, AMAs with top projects. We also have the DAO mechanism, which is going to lower the barrier of entry for players to be able to utilize assets from top games. Because
Yeah.
we both know gamers traditionally aren't supposed to be spending thousands of dollars to play a game. That is just unheard of. Unless
Yeah.
it's, unless you're just a whale in like Clash of Clans and you maximized all your bases. So what that does is it allows players, just by holding the NFT, to actually be able to go into these economics, use the land plots inside of Illuvium or Phantom Galaxies, etc. So we're really trying to give access to players who might be priced out of some of these games.
That's
So
super impressive.
that's a all-in-one description of what I would say we're doing over there.
That's awesome. Like I said, I'm excited for what you guys are doing. I know you're launching an NFT very soon as well.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the collection.
Yeah. So
So that'll be good. And our
I'll
Discord
definitely
is
make sure I get mine.
yeah, and we'll talk more about it this evening as well. So I'll kind of fill in the blanks for you and kind of let you know some of the inner workings, and we'll talk about it a little more. But we're gonna go ahead and get out of here, guys. We're about 30 minutes in. Bryce, anything you wanted to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I would just say one, continue to support shows like this because we need to see a lot of support for Web3 gaming creators that are looking to bring positive games and bring light to what this space is. It's very tough to do what we do in a world where traditional gaming really doesn't give a damn about the time, effort, and energy that we put in every day. And a lot of this doesn't have any monetary benefit for us. A lot of the times, we're all just doing it, myself, Johnny, just doing this because we truly have a passion for gaming and we come from Web 2. So we know what Web 2 gamers want. So any support that you can offer, it doesn't cost you any money to, hang out and learn more about these games. Simple retweet from every now and then. And it helps us a lot in terms of expanding our reach so that Web 2 understands that we are here to stay and that Web 3 games deserve a place. And then on top of that, shout out to all of the builders in the space. I see the NF Arcade folks in there. Dr. JPEG is doing amazing things over there. And make sure that you get involved with this thing of ours.
My man. Well, I appreciate it, Bryce. Follow Brycent on Twitter at Brycent_, as well as your Twitch is just Brycent, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, give Brycent a follow on both of those platforms. I would say he is one of the top players and literally players. This man loves the game. And that's the core of his entire I love it. Like, you're pushing that side of the space forward so much. You mentioned that you're not the type that's pumping your own bags, and that's brilliant. We need more people like that inside the space who care more about the progression of the gameplay than anything else. So Bryce, I really appreciate you joining me. We'll
Much
definitely
love,
do this
fam.
again. We can have even a round table of some people come up here sometime and maybe get a few others and really dig deeper into the space, because I know you and I could talk about this for like hours. Well, all right, my man, we'll get out of here. Guys, like the video if you enjoyed the video and if you enjoyed the information that Bryce and I dropped today, as well as subscribe to the channel for daily videos here on Crypto Banter. I'll be back tomorrow with another show, guys. As always, play well, my friends.
Yeah, that was a vibe.
I agree. That was as they would call it, that was a banger.
You're a superstar. Fuck.